Hello, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another Bushcraft on a budget for 24, and this one we're going to look at knives. Now, casting my mind back to, well, back when I was reading titles like this, as was everybody else, there was a whole survival thing going on, and back then I wasn't very old, didn't have a whole lot of money, and so I, like a lot of other people, if you were looking for a knife, it tended to be a knife that didn't cost much because we didn't have a whole lot of money then. And you had a few decent knives out there, but mostly you had to go for the custom type ones if that was what you wanted, or something from one of the more expensive manufacturers. Problem was, back then, well, I didn't have the money to go for the expensive manufacturers, so you tended to look at the more budget end of the market, and they tended to be the ones with the PVC sheaths and the hollow handle, and when you unscrewed the huge great big ball compass on the end, there was a Christmas cracker survival kit. It did come with a bottle opener on the blade and a somewhat dubious saw, and they didn't last more than 5 minutes. What I tended to go for was the sort of US Air Force pilot survival knife type clone, of which there were a few out there that weren't bad. Now, they were on the whole pretty bad. My US pilot survival type clones, I had several over the years, and they weren't bad. Back then you couldn't get genuine ones over here in the UK, but what we tended to get by with was these clones and a half decent pocket knife. But the real budget end of the market, the ones with the hollow handles and the bottle openers on the blades and the dubious saw, were actually pretty appalling, and that kind of put us off budget knives. Now, way back then, bushcraft was a term that hadn't escaped from Australia as yet. Fast forward 30 years and, well, bushcraft is the thing. We're still outdoors, we're still in the woods, we're still lighting fires, but it's not survival anymore. Now it's bushcraft, and there's a whole set of new tools and new goodies to go with it. Instead of survival knives, we have bushcraft knives and axes and all of those good things. We also have a whole range of different price ranges with any of the equipment that we are looking for, whether it's the clothing, whether it's axes, whether it's knives. You can go from the budget end of the market right up to the custom models. And indeed, I have got a few custom models myself. Rob Evans, a Roger Harrington, I've got a Ashdown Forest Crafts one there as well, various Pukkos, all sorts of custom made knives, which are wonderful bits of kit, and they're lovingly made and they are excellent. But if you're on a budget, these are probably going to be outside of your range. So what is there for you, the bushcrafter who is on a budget, or perhaps somebody who's looking just to get into bushcraft and don't want to spend too much at first? Because, you know, when you first get your bushcraft knife, well, you're probably going to mess up the sharpening, you're probably going to batter the hell out of the back of it, and you can do all those things actually learning about the knife and how to use it. So that is what we are going to look at in this video. I've taken a selection of budget price knives that are easily available. You've probably seen them if you've been searching up bushcraft knives over on the internet, then you will have seen them there and you will have seen the prices. What you haven't seen and what you don't know is, well, are they actually any good? So whether it is a custom knife or a budget knife, you're probably going to be using them for the same sort of thing. So they're going to need to be able to do things like carve a tent peg, perhaps make a feather stick, perhaps whittle something a little bit more decorative, or whittle a spoon. Plenty of those. A very good way to try any knife out is to make one of these, and this is a tri-stick, and it's all the different cuts that we're going to use in bushcraft. And each of the knives that I'm going to show you today, well, they've all been used for all of those tasks, whether it's been carving a spoon, whether it's been making a tri-stick, whether it's been shaving up feather sticks. They all have been used for battening. They all will have been put through quite a lot of use. Now, a little warning. If you're one of those people who likes your knives nice and shiny and virtually not used, you may not like what's coming up, because all of my knives get used, and they get used for all those things I've just said. They get dirty, they get wet, they get covered in blood, fur, wood shavings, mud, you name it, they get covered in it. So they may not be pretty. So there you go, those are the knives that we're going to look at. There's actually 7 of them in all. They range in price from about £5 up to about £40. They've all been used for all the things that I've said. So they've made tri-sticks, they've carved spoons, they've shaved up feathers, they've been used for battening. All of the things that we use them for in bushcraft. So anything that I recommend here, and I'll give you the lowdown on all of them, they have been used for all the stuff that you are likely to be using them for out there in the woods. So this is the first one we're going to look at, and this is the Hultafors Craftsman HVK. Polypropylene sheath, polypropylene handle, carbon steel blade. Ideal size for bushcraft, so the handle is about the width of our palm. Again, the blade is about the same, just slightly wider than my palm. It's got a small guard on the front, it's got a slightly flared pommel on the end. No little lanyard loop or anything in there. And these, cost wise, come out at £4.95 from Henny Haynes. The postage almost costs as much as the knife. I've had this one about 4 years. It's carbon steel and it does mark up quite a lot. However, it does hold a very, very good edge. I've squared the back so it will throw a shower of sparks. When you first get it, it's not particularly square on the back, but it doesn't take very long with a metal file or a diamond file just to square it off on the back. The blade geometry on this little knife is excellent. It's almost the same as the very basic Mora models. It's a rat tail tang, so it's not a full tang. It only runs through to about there, but in use, this is a cracking little knife. And as I said, this has been used for all manner of things, whether it's been splitting, whether it's been carving. I think this spoon was one that I made with this little knife, and it did the whole lot. It split the wood down, it then shaped it. The only additional tool that I used obviously was a crook knife for getting it out. The sheath, it's just a plain black plastic sheath. It's got a little drain hole in the bottom, but it does hold nice and securely. It's got a little thumb ramp on the back to allow you to take it out. It weighs virtually nothing. It's got one of these little clips on the back there, which has a slot for a button. So I know over in Scandinavia, buttoning knives onto your clothing is quite common, and it does make quite a lot of sense, particularly in the winter. I have it on a neck cord, pardon me, I have it on a neck cord, and you can have this around your neck all day, all week, and you don't notice it's there. It weighs virtually nothing. It's a cracking little tool for not a lot of money. Even if you're not just starting out in bushcraft, but you perhaps like to have a knife in the shed, or a knife in your vehicle, or a knife in your bug out bag, get home bag, whatever, this would be a very good choice. At £5, yeah, it's a brilliant bit of kit. Now, in a very similar vein to the Hultafors Craftsman, this is a Mora knife. It's incredibly similar, and this one is the Mora 511. Now, this one is also very old. There was a company called Claes Olsen 10-15 years ago, and you used to be able to buy 3 of these for £10. They're a bit more expensive now. I'll just double check, because it's been updated like everything. These are now £8.95, so £9 for one of these. What you're getting is a carbon steel blade, Mora, Swedish steel, slightly thinner than the Hultafors. The blade geometry is almost identical. You've still got this lower guard, you've still got the moulded plastic handle. You've also got the moulded plastic sheath, which sits in, and again it holds nice and securely. Weight wise, it doesn't weigh anything at all. These have been used as my student knives for a long time. I've probably got about 40 of these. They get abused every year. At the end of every season, I go through, take out the ones that are really badly damaged, and that's usually cracks to the handles, etc., and I then resharpen them, clean up the blades, etc. And they've been going for that long. So for my just under 3.5 quid a knife, these have served me very well. And I've no doubt that the new updated models, which are a little bit chunkier than these, will give the user the same sort of service. So they are great. As far as use, well, an awful lot of the stuff up there on the shelf has been made with one of these. They are a great little item, weigh nothing, cost nothing, and yeah, they are absolutely superb. Now, the late great MOSGansky was also a big fan of those as well. He modified his very slightly. What he did was he snapped off the guard, and then he also drilled a hole in the end of the handle, because they're a rat tail tang that only goes about that far through. You can easily drill through to add a piece of something brightly coloured in case you drop it on the ground. I've done the same with mine, and it usually ends up in, well, this one normally ends up actually in a birch sheath. This was another sheath that somebody made me up. It's a great knife, and I'd highly recommend, if you are on a budget, get yourself one of those, even a couple, while you're learning all the skills of battening and shaving things and striking sparks off the back. All of those things will take wear and tear on a knife, so having a cheap knife makes a lot of sense. And these, well, they don't come much cheaper, and they are very good. Now, on the subject of abusing knives, which to be fair we do from time to time, and you may want something a bit more heavy duty. Again, I'm not going for a full tang, and this is another one from Hultafors, and this is the Hultafors OK4. OK standing for outdoor knife. It's basically incredibly similar to the Craftsman line. The blade is a bit chunkier. You've also got this rubberized grip, which again you can buy a version of the Craftsman's knives with a rubberized grip. The tang on this is reported to go almost through to the end. It's a 3/4 tang. The blade thickness is a little bit thicker, and it comes with a black coating on it. When you first get it, the back isn't particularly squared, and the coating does interfere with its ability to strike on a ferro rod. That's easily sorted out. Again, diamond file down the back squares that off. A very capable knife. This one lives in the back of my vehicle in my if everything goes wrong kit. It's very dependable. Will take a huge amount of abuse, and this has been used for everything: splitting, gutting, starting fires, shaving things, chiseling out stuff when I've been doing DIY at home, you name it, it's been used for it. The sheath, again, exactly the same as the other Hultafors sheath. The knife fits in there nice and securely. The whole lot can be chucked through a dishwasher if you need to clean it. Again, weight wise, I tend to carry stuff around my neck, and this, even though this is a slightly thicker steel and a slightly longer tang, it actually still doesn't weigh very much, and you can wear it around your neck, inside your clothing, all day long. It's an absolute cracker. Cost wise, let's double check. These are now gone up. These are now £19. But for that £19, you are getting an awful lot of knife. Next up, a knife that really does need no introduction. This one, and it's not in the standard sheath, is the Mora Classic No1. A very, very capable tool. The steel, just over 2mm thick. There's no guard on it. It's got a basic birch handle, and it comes with a plastic sheath normally. This is one that I pimped. I made myself a birch sheath. I've drilled a little hole through the end, and I've had several of these over the years. They are phenomenal. They are the sort of classic Scandinavian woodworking general purpose knife. I absolutely love this one. Now these, again, used to be super cheap. I think the first one I got cost me £8. Now they've kind of revamped them. They do like a Bakelite retro sheath with a little leather tab on it, and they're up to £25. I checked on the net this morning, so they're still very, very good value. They're ideal for if your vent is more the woodcraft inside. Again, a lot of the stuff up there has been made using one of these, and they are great, really, really good item. They don't cost a huge amount of money, and they are, I suppose, pretty much the classic Scandinavian bushcraft knife. What's not to like about the good old classic No1? So our next one, if you've been a viewer of the channel for a while, you'll already know this knife, because this is from BPS Knives, and this is their BS2 HFT, I think it is. Let me just check. Yeah, BS2 FT. And this comes with a very good leather sheath, so we're moving away from plastics and more into your sort of classic bushcraft, so you get a decent leather sheath, and it is a decent leather sheath. It's nice and deep and secure. It comes with a dangler if that's your thing. It also has got a regular belt loop on the back there as well, so you can hold it up securely on your belt rather than having it dangling down. You get a carbon steel blade, which is highly polished, and a walnut handle. Fit and finish on it is actually pretty damn good, and when I reviewed this a few months back, I'd already been using it quite a lot anyway, and it is a phenomenal use. I think I put this down as a modern Kephart knife because I truly believe it is. It's a very utilitarian blade shape. It's not ideal for woodcrafting. It could do with being narrower at the front. Everything else on it is great. It really, really is. It's a Scandi grind. It's got a very slight micro bevel on it. It's held together with these little hex type bolts running through. It's got a little loop on the back. It's a very plain handle. I like the plain handle. I'm not a great fan of palm swells and all the rest of it. Something that's fairly plain. It's got a very slight guard on there, so you know that the sharp edge is coming up. It's about 3mm thick, and when I got it, the back was nicely squared, so it strikes a really good spark. And I really do rate this knife. I think it's great, really great. The edge retention on it is really good, to the point of, I use this straight out of the box and it's never had a full sharpen. I've put it over the emery boards a couple of times, the finer ones. It still comes up shaving sharp all the time. It's done loads and loads of feather sticks. It's carved all manner of various tri-sticks. I've battened wood with it. I've skinned animals with it. I've done all sorts of stuff with this little knife. And it's great. The even greater thing, even though you're getting a leather sheath, a very good leather sheath with a decent welt, decent thickness leather, it's nice and solid as well. A walnut handle, decent carbon steel blade that's excellently finished, I have to add, and super sharp. It's 35 quid. That's all. Oh, back to the 80s when I was reading Eddie McGee's No Need to Die. Yeah, I would have given my arm and leg for a knife like this, because yeah, this is an absolute cracker. And if you're in the market for a more traditional looking, less of the plastic type bushcraft knife, this could be the way to go. Or it could be the next couple that I'm looking at. There's another, so this is another European maker, this time from Poland. This is a company called Zapas. I did do a bit of an unboxing video a few weeks back of this, and essentially what you're getting is this is what they call their Modern Pukko XS, except for most Pukkos are stick tangs. This is a full tang. It comes with a pretty decent leather sheath, but this one black. It's got an ash handle. I think possibly they might be trying to do a bit of a Mora knife, because yeah, Mora's sort of very expensive range, which I think they're sort of charging about £190 for a knife of a very similar size. Also has a black sheath and an ash handle. When I first took it out and reviewed it, there were a few things I wasn't very happy with. Its actual performance, bearing in mind this is a bushcraft knife and they want to get into selling bushcraft knives, I didn't think was that great. The steel is a carbon steel, it's a CR2, I don't know, but it's a carbon steel, and it's it's a good 3mm thick, very plain handle on it. Actually, when I tried it, the bevel on it, now this company Zapas does already make quite a range of knives, and they tend to be your more sort of tactical survival type knives, and as a result they have quite a robust edge on them, which means they've got quite a heavy secondary bevel, which this did have. So for things like carving notches, feather sticks, it really was quite difficult to do and not really ideally suited to bushcraft. However, I really liked the overall design, shape of the handle, particularly how the blade is set up. It's a really good shape blade. It has that continuous curve on there, which makes it very good for feather sticks and just carving in general. Front is quite nice and narrow, so it's good for getting in and cutting curves. What it wasn't was the blade just was, this grind was not set up for bushcraft. So what I did, I put it on the diamond stones, and it took a while, it took about a week, but I managed to square the back nicely so that it will actually cast a decent spark, and I've given it pretty much zero Scandi grind. There is a tiny micro bevel, and the only reason that went on there was the edge rolled because I brought it up that much. Not terribly, and it didn't take a lot. It was just a little bit of stropping just to get rid of that tiny little burr that was running around on it. Since I've done that, well, with its dinky little black leather sheath and its little short ash handle, I think it's a little cracker. Again, it doesn't weigh anything. It's smaller than the BPS offering, but it is a cracker. And if you want to put the time into actually modifying it the way that I did, then yeah. Again, this one comes in £34.95, so £35. Zapas, if you are watching and you've got this range of bushcraft knives you want to push out, a little word from the wise: square your back off so that it will throw sparks from a ferro rod. Lose the very heavy bevel, get them to a 0 Scandi grind. If you're not sure what that is, go over and get a BPS one. Also with this model, it could do with the handle being 10 to 15 mil longer. Also, and with both of those companies, both BPS and Zapas, this one from BPS do a choice of sheaths, left and right handed. Zapas, with their Modern Pukko, again only comes in a right handed sheath. Why don't you guys do an ambidextrous sheath? Right? That's my one. It's a design I came up with. I've used it for years. It works either way round. A lot simpler. Another thing which I just remembered with this little knife Zapas, you've got your little mini guard at the front there. It's a bit sharp. I had to file it down a little bit just to make it slightly more rounded because it was a tad aggressive, as they say. So apart from those things, Zapas, it's not a bad first effort. Let's see if you can turn one of these using the recommendations I've put into a phenomenal bushcraft knife, because I think if you do follow that little bit of advice there, I think that's exactly what you'll have, and it will be a real good seller. And I can see people going out and buying one of these rather than one of those expensive Mora knives. Next up is another one from Ukraine. This is Beavercraft, and this is their BSH3. I think it's got some new name. Now, I reviewed this one a while back, and I did the whole one stick fire using this knife. Back squared quite nicely. Secondary bevel, not great, but with a little bit of touching up it came up okay. Again, quite a plain handle. Not a big fan of this bit at the back, and it could do with a little lanyard hole. Quite a plain handle, just a couple of slabs either side, again bolted in. Not bad on the blade. This could do with being narrower. However, they do some other bushcraft knives which are very similar to Mora's, but with a full tang. The sheath, I thought the sheath was the only thing that really let this one down. It's a bit floppy. No one wants a floppy one. If a walnut handle with a black blade is what you're looking for a general purpose bushcraft knife, for £40, £39.95, this could be right up your street. It wouldn't be my first choice. I would probably go for general purpose bushcraft knives, either of those two, either the offering from BPS or from Zapas. So there you go, that is my guide to bushcraft knives if you are on a budget. And I know at the moment, sort of way things are financially, pretty much everywhere, I think everybody is on a budget. So if you're in the market for a bushcraft knife, check out the links down below for all of those knives there, and they are all very tried and tested. Now, a little bit about the shop, because I've restocked the shop recently. There's quite a few bits and pieces in there. There is the guide haversacks. I think there's a couple of these left in there at the moment, and these ones are in olive green. A couple of people have asked me for coyote tan again. I am going to be doing the coyote tan ones. One of the issues I'm having is trying to find the right cordura, which sounds like an odd thing. I was looking for one, there's a particular backing that I prefer on them. I don't like the really heavy backing. I don't think it actually offers any benefit. So I'm just trying to source the right cordura. So there's a couple of those up there in olive green. There might be some more coming up in olive green too. These are the ones with the new 2-inch wide brown shoulder straps. What we've also got in the shop at the moment, and there's a few bits and pieces that are all wonderful. The latest run of the Greencraft patches. These are the Velcro backed ones. They are in there as well, so pop over and get those. There's also in there the cuts kits. Every one of you, if you're a bushcrafter or if you're carrying anything sharp, you should carry a cuts kit with you, and these are absolutely ideal. There's my one, and it goes everywhere with me. They are such a useful bit of kit. I know some people don't just stop at buying one, some people have bought several. There are also over there my fire starter pouches. On a neck cord, waterproof nylon, you wear them around your neck, inside your clothing, and it keeps those essential fire lighting bits and pieces that you might need in a hurry close to hand. They're also designed to be open one-handed with the little tabs that are on there, so you can just get straight into the bag. There are also over there my fire starter pouches. On a neck cord, waterproof nylon, you wear them around your neck, inside your clothing, and it keeps those essential fire lighting bits and pieces that you might need in a hurry close to hand. They're also designed to be open one-handed with the little tabs that are on there, so you can just get straight into the bag. Lastly, over there, a lot of people have been asking about these, and we have done them. So what we have is my little EDC light pouches, but this time we've done them in the brown. And what we've also done, I've put 2 press studs on, one female fitting up on the flap, and then 2 on the actual body of it, and that is so that you can put different size knives in there. This will take anything up to, I think it's one of the number 8 Opinels, or down to one of the smaller Swiss Army type knives. So they are a great item. Lastly, over there on the shop, what you will also find are these, my super survival necklaces. Great for out in the woods, and this one here, my everyday carry, is just that. It's my everyday carry. It sits on my belt, it's discreet, it's out of the way. In the woods, I carry one of these around my neck, inside my clothing, and it's got all the bits and pieces on there that I need. So I've got my pocket knife in there, I've got a lighter on there, I've got my whistle, I've got a little squeeze light, and I've got a little tab for my compass and a ferro rod. So all of these things are always on me when I'm in the woods, and they're all the bits and pieces that I'm likely to need. So if you're in the market for any of those things, head over to my shop. The link is in the description box down below, and yeah, have a little peruse, but be quick because most of it probably won't be there for long. Well, I think that is everything. If you enjoyed this video, then hit that thumbs up button, or go over and buy me a coffee. There is a link in the description box. There is also a link down there for my Etsy shop, as well as my Instagram and Facebook pages. Pop over there and give me a like. Also down there in that description box, there's a whole link to other things, including Operation Jackdaw. If you don't know what that is, pop down and have a look. They have got a website, and I'll put a link to that over there. If you're a veteran, it's worth you having a look at that. Anyway, I think that's everything. I've been Neil, and until next time, stay safe in the woods.